Hello there, welcome to my April book wrap-up. Yes, I'm wearing a sweater, even though it's May and it's spring, because it decided to snow where I live. Anyway, the books that I read in April, there's 4 of them. I'll start with the one that I actually reread, because I was reading it to my boyfriend actually. It's called Touched by Corinne Jackson. I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. It is a reread. It was 343 pages and is the first in the trilogy. It's my favorite in the trilogy, but we don't need to get into that right now. And it is a fantasy novel about a young girl. She's 17 years old and she has the power to heal those who she touches. And then she meets someone who knows about her powers and things go on from there. I gave this book 4.5 stars because it's really endearing and it has a spot in my heart. I've read it for years now, probably once a year since I got it. It's a little cliche, but it's not like overwhelmingly cliche, which I really like about it, because sometimes you need a little bit cliche, like to sit down, cozy, read a book that you can expect stuff from, but it still has twists that you aren't necessarily expecting. And I just really enjoy this book. Like, I would watch it as a movie, and I would still read the book over and over again, even if it had a movie. And the reason I did take off half a star is because, especially when you're reading it out loud, the sentence structure doesn't always vary a lot, and there can be some repetitive wording. And while that's fine and all, and like it is a lower level reading, it's not necessarily super high where I am. Like when I first got this, it was a perfect level for me because that was years ago. But now I'm a little beyond it, so that's the only reason I gave it 0.5. It's the writing is a little low, for me, but otherwise it's really good, and it's just such a good book. Like there are mentions of like abuse and things like that, and it can be a little bloody at times, just so you know. So check this book out. It does have a trilogy. The other 2 books aren't as good, but this one is really good, and you can read it as a standalone for sure. I've read it so many times, and you definitely don't need to read the other 2 books to feel fulfilled, which is really nice too, and that's another reason it deserves 4.5 stars. The next book I read was Last Seen Alive by Claire Douglas. And right here it says, "She can run, but her past won't hide." And I thought that was going to be a totally different meaning than what this book came to give me. There was just so many crazy plot twists. It's a thriller, 326 pages, crazy plot twists. The organization and the writing are so great in this book. It works so well for the type of novel that it is. And the characters are great. They have great motives. You find out things as the main character finds them out, but you don't even know things. The main character knows more than you at points, and it's really interesting how that's played with throughout the book. And if you like thrillers and crazy plot twists that are gonna have you throwing this book down and taking a walk just because you need a break, you need to read this book, because I did exactly that. I threw this book down on my table and I had to go walk around my house just to take a minute because of what I just read in this book. And it has a really interesting look at grief and different consequences of actions, and it's just incredible. But I did give it 4 out of 5 stars because I absolutely hated the ending. And not to give any spoilers, but it's one of those books where it ends, but the overall story and what happens can still continue onward. So like, there's an ending, but it's not a true ending of all of the action. Like, you kind of come up with it yourself, and I just hate books like that. So if you can't stand books like that, don't read this. But if you think it's worth it for the thriller and the amazing plot twist in this book, honestly, I hate endings like that, but I think it's worth it. That's why I still gave it 4 stars. Definitely read this. But if you can't handle a lot of talk about pregnancy and miscarriage, then don't read this, because they do talk a lot about that, because it is something that happened in the main character, and it does affect her throughout the story. She feels a little bit of grief for that, and then other things that have happened. But that's probably the biggest topic that may cause people issues when reading, so I just wanted to mention that. Third book I read this month is 4 Dead Queens by Astrid Schultz. I even got the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition because I saw this came out was coming out in a few days when I first saw it, and I bought it the day it came out. This is the first time I've ever followed a book and bought it the day it came out, and it still took me forever to read because I was reading other books when I bought it. It is a fantasy, sci-fi, and murder mystery. It's mainly sci-fi and murder mystery. There are elements of fantasy in the different world that it's in, and the fact that it's in Quadra, which is 4 quadrants separated up between the different queens. And it is the author's debut novel. Astrid Schult is the author. She's also like used to be an animator for different studios, and she does paintings. There's actually an oil painting by her of 2 characters in this book. Let me see if I can find it real fast. In this exclusive edition, it does come with an extra chapter and then this beautiful oil painting of 2 of the characters by the author herself. So she's really talented. It's 423 pages in the hardback edition. There is no paperback as far as I know. I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. It's enjoyable. I love the sci-fi elements. I'm a sci-fi girl for sure, and it was really cool to see the new scientific things she came up with in this novel, and the new world that it was in was really, really interesting. And one of the biggest reasons I took half a star off is because I felt like we didn't get enough of that world. It was mostly in the palace with the queens or around there, and I just really, 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 really want more of Quadra because it sounds so interesting. Like, I'm looking at you, Astrid, write another book in this world, please. Like, I'd love to hear like a story just in the same world. I don't know how you would do that or what, but like, so good, so cool. I need to take a quiz to figure out it's like the new Hogwarts houses. Like, what quadrant are you from in this world? And honestly, I don't know. For me personally, like, it's really hard because Ionia looks cool, but they're too technological for me. Like, I love medicine and learning things, but it seems like far too, like, it seems kind of like when you read Divergent and every place has its really bad things that really seep through. For this, you kind of see that a lot more than like, you see both the good and bad, but with Ionia, it's kind of, oh, they're technologically advanced, but there's no emotions and everything, and I don't know, I'd like that, but I think, I don't know, Archaea maybe? Like, I don't know, I'll have to figure that out. Like, if you've read this and you have an idea of what I would be in, then feel free to comment below, but I know it is a brand new book and not many people know about it yet, so I'm here to suggest that you buy it and read it, please, so more people know about it and we can talk about it, and then hopefully we get a Netflix series, because I want to audition for Carolee, who's the main character, because I just feel like I could possibly play her. I don't know. That's a dream. That's a dream. But anyway, the characters are really interesting. I've seen a lot of people say that the queens all seem the same, but I personally did not get that vibe at all. Like, I was reading this and all the queens seemed very diverse. Like, maybe they seemed the same because they were all dealing with grief as each queen died. I don't know. Like, I don't know, they all had their different relationships and different things that mattered to them, and they all cared for each other, and like, it shows you how important the different dynamics of relationships are in this book, like forming relationships and old relationships, and what happens when you don't have a relationship with someone you normally would, and things like that. And it's a really important part of the book, is to see how emotions and relationships are explored and the consequences of so many different actions, like so many different choices, like things Carolee has dealt with guilt with, and things some of the queens have guilt for. All of this is explored, and it's really interesting to see that in here. And as a mystery novel, this has some pretty good twists too. Like, obviously I wasn't as intensely blown away as Last Seen Alive, because that was truly a hardcore thriller and mystery, but this one still got me a little bit when the plot twist finally dropped, and I was like, I honestly did not see that coming. Like, I really did not expect that to be what was going on. So check this out, debut novel, Astrid Schult, really good, really good. Like, go give her some love. She so often she'll respond if you tag her in things. I know she's coming to the USA for a tour in the next month of, I think it's just all in May. So, you know, check her out, okay? This is really good. The last book I read for April is Brain on Fire by Susanna Cahalan. and it's actually a memoir. So it's all relatively true. It's 252 pages, and it's really hard to rate because it is a memoir, and especially a medical memoir, where she got this mysterious disease. At first I thought it was some sort of psychosis, but it's actually like a receptor autoimmune disease. And I mean, it's not really like a mystery novel, even though it's read that way, because what she did is, after she got better eventually, she went back and interviewed all the people that helped her because she couldn't really remember anything that had happened. So she watched the videos of herself in the hospital, she interviewed her parents, her boyfriend, her co-workers, because she used to work at the New York Post before her disease, and then she was actually able to go back and she wrote a piece, which this book is based off of. And then she, of course, ended up writing this book. It's extremely well written, and that's probably also because she did work at the Post writing articles. It's informative, it's passionate, it's honest. She does call herself an unreliable narrator because she doesn't really remember a whole lot of what happened during that month, but she does go back, and she did talk to all of these people that were involved, all of the doctors. She talked to nurses, friends, family, everyone who was around her during this time, and got their views and the videos that she watched and everything, and what she could remember. So I think it's a very interesting look into diseases when they're first becoming truly recognized, because beyond this novel now, there's been a lot more cases, and this has actually brought a lot of light to the disease, which is anti-MDMA autoimmune encephalitis. I know, a mouthful, but it's essentially when it's when your immune system is attacking your brain for some reason. And for a lot of people, they have a tumor that causes it, but the people who don't have a tumor actually take a lot longer to recover because there's nothing to remove that's causing it. They don't know why. There's still a lot of research that needs to be done on this disease, especially to make it easier to check for and less expensive to cure. But I thought this was a really interesting book because I don't often read books that aren't fantasy or some sort of fiction, and this was 100% true because it was her research about what happened to her during this month of this disease. Now I want to talk about what's going to go on for the month of May. So first of all, I'm also in the middle of a book called Beast of Extraordinary Circumstance. It's an ebook, and it's by Ruth Emmy Lang. It is really good. I know there's physical versions of it, but I'm borrowing the ebook version from my library. I might actually end up buying it because it's so good that I might want to read it again, and I don't want to wait for my library to allow me to borrow it again. So if I buy that in the future, you'll probably see a picture of it, but it's really good. It's a fantasy novel about this boy named Wylan, and it's mostly told from perspectives of other people in his life as he goes through his life and all the fantastical things that happen that follow him throughout his life. I love it. I'm about halfway through it, and it's just so good. So I'm definitely gonna have that on my May book wrap up. And then books that I plan to read this month are The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So many people have said this is amazing. Some people have said it's terrible. I mean, I love fantasy, so I feel like I'm gonna love it. I read a sample of it and I enjoyed the writing style, so that's why I actually bought it. I never buy a book until I read a sample or sit down at the bookstore and read the first chapter because writing style is really important to me. Or if it was 50 cents and I read the back and it sounded good, but this was not 50 cents. This was straight from the bookstore. And then I also got 5 Feet Apart, which is gonna become a movie. I was really interested in the movie, but I haven't seen it yet because I do want to read the book first. It is by Rachel Lippincott, and I'm really excited. It seems really cute. I hope it's not painful, but it's probably going to be painful. So, I'll read this and then I'll probably watch the movie finally. And then I want to read Golden Buddha by Clive Cussler. I do love Clive Cussler novels, and especially The Organ Files. So this is actually the first novel in his series called The Organ Files, and I'm really excited. I got it for 50 cents too at a book sale supporting a museum by my house, and it's just really exciting. to have the first one and be able to read it. And obviously, I bought more books. Most of them were like the 50-cent $1 sale that I went to, and there's a ton of Clive Cussler that I got, but I definitely want to read this one. And then I also am considering finishing this book. I started reading it last year, and I'm about halfway through it. It's called The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, and it's just, for me, it's just really slow, I feel like. I don't know if maybe that's just where I was in my life that this book was slow and I just wanted to read something else, or if the book is actually slow, but I may give it another shot in May if I run out of books. If I finish these 3 and Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance, then I'll try to give this one a shot, and if it's just not working, I'll put it back down and pick one of my other books that I still need to read. I'm also doing 2 Instagram challenges. On my main account, I'm doing a Bookstagram challenge, and it's by That Is Marie. You can check it out. The first one is actually books that you plan to read in May. So I have a very beautiful photo of these 3 books on there that you can go check out. I'll link my Instagram below. And there's also, on my art account, I'm doing Mermay. So you can check out my mermaid art on that one, and I'll link my art Instagram account down below as well. Let me know what you're reading for May in the comments on this video. Like, I'll put a question down there. Feel free to either reply directly to that or just comment on the video in general. I'd love to see what you're reading, and like, if you've read one of these before, tell me what you thought, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye bye.